November of 2025, you would then have the election, and you would be doing 2026, 2027, 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Okay.
So that's the only change, and again, that was what is being recommended by PED. It does make sense. Otherwise, again, you're going to have a special election. And you're not the only district. This is happening to a lot of other districts that, again, ended up on a different cycle than, that's not something that the legislature had considered when they changed the law a number of years ago.
Okay. Any other questions? Are we going into the rest of the text of this as well?
What do you mean?
For instance, on bullet number 3 in that on page 4, not bullet, but item number 3, it says maintenance of public school buildings, including teacher housing.
And let me just tell you real quickly, that is language that the legislature added during this last legislative term. They are giving boards more flexibility. It doesn't mean that you have to use those monies for teacher housing. It's just an additional thing that you can use the money for if you decide you want to. And what we normally recommend, and this is what we did this time, we follow the language of the statute because, again, it gives the board and the school district much more flexibility. You can use it for any one or all of those reasons.
Okay, but I would assume we'd have to develop a policy in determining how that decision will be made and allocated.
Right. If, school districts that are using, that would be using the money for teacher housing, yes, they have some kind of method for deciding who gets, how they are able to get that housing. And they have, all kinds of rules and regulations and forms that people have to fill out for that. That might be. I'm looking for that.
That's a question on the ballot.
Because it says, shall the Board of Education.
Oh, that's right. Let me just.
It ends on page 5 with the question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the question that would actually be going to the voters.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Do we need to get this, if this is approved, Joyce, we need to
Yes,
get
so
this?
we need to go ahead. I recommend approval, and then we do have the original forms that after the meeting, it calls for the president's signature and secretary's signature. So we would need both of you to sign if we approve this, so we can send them back to you.
Okay. You heard the recommendation, do you hear motion? Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second? Second. Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions on that? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night. And just get those documents to us tomorrow if you can, please, and we'll get them over to PED and to DFA.
Okay. So
Thank you again.
after they're signed,
Good night.
just scan
Good
them.
night. Thank you.
Because they wanted them emailed and then sent overnight. So we gotta scan them before we put them in the mail, right? Okay, next item we have the superintendent search process, presentation by Joe Guillen from New Mexico School Board Association. Mr. Guillen, are you still on?
He's still on.
Is he muted?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your meeting this evening. I appreciate that. I don't have to drive down there, so that's good. I just came off of a public school capital outlay meeting. So how would you like to proceed, Mr. Sepulveda?
Well, you could, I think the reason, Joe, is to just kind of explain how the superintendent search works and how the people that do the search for us operate.
Okay,
And how we
I'd be happy to do that. So let me,
Okay, go ahead.
all right. Well, as you know, your district, your board is a member of the New Mexico School Boards Association. And in order to assist our boards, we've come up with two programs that will assist you in of course, coming to a decision, selecting a superintendent. As you know, that's a very important decision that you all make. The first thing that we do, again, for all districts, is we make available a short training session, a short training module on the process of looking for a replacement for a superintendent whenever you have a resignation or retirement. We explain the options that the board has. We explain that you'll need to put together a timeline, that you'll need to put together a criteria that you'd like to establish for your superintendent, and put together a plan that if you're going to involve members of the community or if the board is going to be doing that on their own. So the training module that we present is provided at no cost. And it allows you as well to ask questions about the process. It also identifies the options you have in the process you're going to utilize. Are you going to do it by yourselves as a board? Do you need some outside help? And if you do, then the options that are available. Over the years, we've seen boards pay consultants up to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for superintendent search. So what we did at New Mexico School Boards is put together a superintendent search program that would be low cost but provide the services that you need to bring on board a superintendent. We felt that if you didn't want to do this yourself, that we would help you put together a plan, number one, on the characteristics, how you're going to use your community in the selection, to help in screening applicants, handling the application process, and those kinds of things. We also identified 5 individuals that would be available to help you in this process. Not that all 5 are available to you, but maybe you have a preference of one of the 5, or in terms of the timeline that we were talking about, maybe some of these individuals would not be available to you. Dr. Hugh Prather is the coordinator for this program for us at no cost. He provides that service to us at no cost. But if you choose to use the superintendent search program that we offer, then you can select one of these individuals to provide the service, or again, we can make available to you the names of those that are available to conduct the search for you at that time. Once that is done, we can put together a proposal for you. They generally run between $8,000 and $10,000. Again, very low cost, according to some of the other districts and the amount of money they've spent. This amount is not subject to the procurement code because it's under the $60,000 that the procurement code now allows you to go to contract with without going out to RFPs. So when we heard about the vacancy there, we again offered the training session to you at no cost, and we went ahead and put together, I understand, a proposal for you to review. This contract is negotiable, and I understand you have received a copy of it. So that's how the process works. It's a service that we provide only to our members. It's low cost, and it's available to you should you need it, when you need it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the process or anything like that.
In our policies, we have where if we're going to solicit professional contract services, we need to notice the contractors or just put up public notice of our intent to solicit for certain contract services. And that would be open to everybody, not just anybody limited to being associated with the school board association. So I like everything you've said up until that part where we have 5 people to choose from. I think for us to adhere to our own policies, we need to make this a broader search if we do get to the part where we are going to get somebody to provide us the additional support that we need to make the actual selection or to at least get the applications. So is that part of what can happen going forward? Not be limited to the 5 that you have there and us go through our required process of soliciting for proposals.
Okay. In terms of if you're looking for proposals from anyone outside of these individuals, they have committed to us to work on a very reasonable basis and to start with our base costs. So again, if you want to go outside of that, it is not a requirement. It is not a state requirement. It may be a local preference, but that's a decision that the board would have to make. It would also take time to put together a request for proposals, to advertise that, to look at the proposals that come in, evaluate them, and make a decision on who you would want to do that. Again, this is available to you on a better timeline. You should be looking, as you know, there are many superintendent vacancies at this time, and the sooner that you would get out the actual advertisement for the superintendent, the better, rather than spending all that time trying to get someone to respond to an RFP, which I can, guess will be a lot higher than this. If these people don't meet with your satisfaction, there are some former superintendents here, some of the trainers that we use, and again, they're all, I think there's a couple that have indicated that they are ready to move on this if the board decides. But again, it's not a arm twisting of any kind. This is a service that we're providing you at a very, very reasonable cost, and we're ready to hit the ground running if you want that.
This also comes from what I perceive to be a very tainted process because of the initial contact and probably and subsequent contacts made by our board president to some of these vendors regarding this solicitation for proposals. That certainly is outside of the scope of anything that's legal in the state. And to continue to pursue that without opening it up would be to acquiesce to our limiting ourselves to what one person as an individual has started, rather than the board participating in any discussion about making this selection. We have had no board meetings really that say this is the one we're going to choose, and at this point, this is the point where we're at to choose that. I certainly don't mind going forward with the process of your training. That seems very valuable, but I am very reluctant to go to the people that we've already made contact with and have already excluded a substantial number, probably, or maybe even very few other potential candidates. That's not our purview. That's not within our purview. We can't limit the universe of our church, of our search, just because one person or maybe even a couple more, are very involved with the school board association and value its services and want to go directly with that. That is a limit that I think is not universally accepted. It was never brought as a vote. The board has never met to consider that as an option. So
That's where you're wrong, because we did vote that we were gonna go with a superintendent search organization at one board meeting. We did vote for that. And as far as you saying that I was the one that contacted, I called Joe and told Joe that our superintendent had retired. And that as far as the conversation with Joe went. Then Joe called Dr. Pfeiffer, and the training that Joe is saying was held by Dr. Pfeiffer here.
Oh, so the training already happened?
Yes.
You were not here at the meeting.
No, I understand
You came
that.
late to the meeting, but
So,
it
so
did happen at a
okay,
board
so
meeting.
so that came to the board
Yes.
without board consensus in terms of that's the process we were going to go to.
That was just like these speakers that came today. We did not say we want you to come. He offered to come and put on the training, which we did. Go ahead, George.
And again, there's no cost for it. It's providing you training with what you're going to need to consider when you go out for a superintendent, and there was no pressure at all on that. We did say that we were available to provide the service if you want it, and that's where we're at today. Again, no cost has been incurred, no decisions have been made. You are not required to go out to bid on this. It's really how you want to proceed. If you want to proceed and go out and see what you get, that's fine. If you want to use one of our cadre, superintendent cadre, you can do that as well. So again, no one is trying to push this other than giving you the benefits, and then you all will need to decide as a board.
Again, good evening, Mr. Board President, members of the board. My name is George Esqueda, for the record. Again, I've been watching all your meetings since the beginning of the year, and I think what would have made this whole process a lot smoother and gotten you guys on board is if Mr. Guillen would have made this presentation back in May rather than Mr. Prather. Because what it appears like, and I do want to correct, and I do believe there's a misuse of wording in regards to training versus presentation. Because there was no training presented on May 17th. It was a presentation by Mr. Prather. And at least for myself, from the general public, it does, from the agenda itself, it does appear that Mr. Prather had been solicited to come make a presentation to the school board. That's what it appeared like in reading the May 17th agenda, because right after that presentation, the action item was to enter into a contract with Prather Consulting. So my question is to Mr. Guillen as well as the school board. So the contract, again, I understand that there's 5 consultants that are, I guess, on an approved list or willing to do this search. So with the contract, if you so elect to go this process, is the contract with Prather Consulting or with the New Mexico School Board Association? That's my question. Is that something that you can answer, Mr. Sepulveda or Mr. Guillen? Again,
It would be with one of those 5 people if we went with them. Okay.
so it's not with the School Board Association?
No, they
Okay.
provide the list of people, and they provide the training. They tell you what you need to do and all of that. And that's what Dr. Prather did. He provided a list of things that he would do to relieve some of the work that the school board would have to do.
No, and I understand that, but again, it's just from the perception point of view, from those of us who attend meetings and are accustomed to reading agendas, it appears though that, and again, that's why I sent multiple emails requesting the document that was sent to Mr. Prather, because it appeared then that again, he was solicited by the Cobre District to come make a presentation, and then immediately after that presentation, there was an action item to enter into an agreement with him. So again, so looking from the outside in, I can see where there's confusion. And I do believe had Mr. Guillen made the presentation back in May 17th, all this would have been a lot clearer, a lot cleaner, and I do believe you guys would be a lot further along than where you're at with no decision being made at this point in time. So again, that's just my comments, looking from the outside in, and with that, I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Guillen, I'm gonna expand on something that you shared with me over the phone, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is Joyce. You had explained to me that once the School Board Association is contacted, that the 5 people that do this job, they're not in competition with each other, that what you do is you see which of the 5 is available to make the presentation and to work with the district, and that's how we ended up with Mr. Prather. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I made the contact with Mr. Prather, and I wish I could have been there, but I was not able to be there, and he made the presentation. As you know, he's one of our trainers that we use throughout the year, and he's available to do that for us. So again, we check with them, and in some cases, the districts know one of these individuals better, and say, we'd like to have Gloria Rendon, for instance, do the search if she's available, and we will grant that if she is available. So again, it's your choice, and again, it's a reasonable, very reasonable fee for the service, provided only to our members if they so desire.
No. So I guess, Ms. Varela, I understand that a discussion was held then over the phone, but was that information then
So what
disseminated
happened is
to all the board members?
When you emailed and asked me questions about it, I was not familiar with the process because I was not involved in it. So at that point is when I called Joe to ask him questions and to get a copy of the contract that you had requested. So it was me doing my homework to
Yes.
answer your email.
No, and I appreciate that, but I guess, so your phone call occurred
Like
just recently.
the day before I sent you the contract.
Yeah, so none of that information in regards to what Mr. Guillen just referenced about the 5 on the list and the training and things of that nature was disseminated or passed on to the board prior to the May 17th board meeting?
That's why we put it on the agenda for this meeting, so that we could clarify after Ms. Varela and I kind of went over your email and got clarification from him. That's why we figured it would be prudent to bring him on and have him explain everything that he had talked to us about.
So then the answer to my question is no. That the information was not provided to the board for the May 17th action.
At that
Oh,
point,
that-
I was
that-
not in a
that-
position to present it, so.
So that, I guess that's my question.
I mean, it's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had more questions along the line. One is, I agree with everything and I appreciate everything Mr. Esqueda has stated, but one place where I differ a little bit is that whether Mr. Ian would have been here to make the presentation or not, the fact is that there was contact made directly with him by our board president, and nothing was posted publicly to announce that we were going to engage in a search and we're going to solicit any kind of interest in people providing search support for conducting that search. Had that been done first, and had anybody else expressed an interest, been allowed to make a presentation to us, I wouldn't have a problem with where we're at right now. But this was exclusive. It was a one-to-one phone call. It was not publicized. No other people were afforded an opportunity to present this here. And now we're at the point of following and legitimizing that first visit, which was not solicited to anybody else. It was exclusive. And it was on personal relationship. That is.
It was a professional relationship as members of our association.
To exclude anybody else from having that opportunity?
No, to offer this opportunity to you.
Or any other vendor that might be interested in helping us with the search or conducting the search altogether, we're excluding any one of them from this process, from the very beginning.
They are not excluded, because if you look, it's been out there. We requested the things that we were looking for, but none of them have responded.
Who requested what thing that we were looking for?
I drew a blank on the wording, but anyway, what we wanted in our search, okay? What we needed in a search, and you got a copy of it, because it was in our board packet a while back. But there was a copy of what we were looking for.
I don't think so.
And it went out to, it was online, and nobody responded to it.
It went out online?
Yes,
Do you guys remember that going out online? A solicitation for,
proposals, there we go.
I never saw it. And matter of fact, we've been fighting about this for the last, I don't know how many meetings, that we should do such a thing. And you stated we don't need to.
I did not say we didn't need to. I said it was out there already.
No, this is the first time you said it's out there.
It's out there already. And we have
So-
not received, it went out, and we have not received another proposal from anybody.
So can we provide documentation of when it was posted and for how long? And how it was circulated?
I'll get you a copy, because I have a copy, because it was in a board packet.
I don't care about the board package. I care about how it was posted.
Well, if you look at it in the board packet, it was there.
In the board packet is not posting it.
But-
Doesn't meet any criteria of posting.
So again, Mr. Guardian, it's my understanding that, as a member of the School Board Association, this is just a service that's provided to us as being a member of the School Board Association.
And that's all good. That's all good and well, so long as we don't exclusively give it
The
to
oth-
them.
The other thing that you're saying is that I called Joe.
Yes.
And I want to ask
And
Joe.
you said that.
I want to ask you a question, Joe. About how many times a day or a week or a month do I call you just to talk?
Not enough, not often.
Call when I called you and told you that Mr. Mendoza was retiring. Mr. Mendoza was
Right.
still here, and so I just told you that he was going to retire, and that was part of our conversation. It was not to solicit anybody.
That's right. And I indicated that I would follow up with Hugh Prather to make sure that the training was available to you if you needed help.
No board inclusion was included in going forward with that. It was a unilateral decision by our board president to have that presented to us without any solicitation for anybody else. That's my
Again,
point.
it was training that no one else provides. It was training that no one else provides. At no cost.
It's a precursor to limiting our selection to 5 people that are affiliated with the school board association and
No,
excluding anybody else.
that's your decision, and that's your impression. We do many of these, and our services are not used to go ahead. And we will, regardless of you select us or not, we will be here. I will be here to help you through the process, even if you choose to do it yourself, because you will see that if you should go out to RFP on this, you're going to see those numbers come in, and if anyone is available, again, this is a service that we provide at a very reasonable fee to help you. And if you don't want our help, just tell us, and we will not go forward. It's your call.
Comment, Melissa Minus, Special Director. It's more of a comment kind of slash question to you members of the board. But when you guys go to your trainings provided through the New Mexico School Board Association, aren't there some trainings about when your superintendent leaves, these are your options? As the chairman or board president, is it his responsibility to say, okay, our leader is leaving, what are my options, and to inform the board and the public of the options? Because if I remember correctly, Mr. Prather's presentation on behalf of the New Mexico School Board Association gave a list. He didn't say, hey, hire me. He said you have the option to go out on your own, you have an option to use a search committee, and you have an option to go for independent headhunters. And he listed all 3. It was a very beautiful PowerPoint. I wish you would have been there to see that. But that is my question. As board members and as the leader of the board, it's Mr. Sepulveda's duty to go out and give information to our community and to the board members. And so that's where I want to say, acting surprised as hey, we didn't know this was coming, your leader is going out and looking for options. What are your options?
Our leader is constricting our options. And I want to walk back that you're limiting us, Mr. Guillen. I want to walk back the comment that you're limiting us to 5. That's inappropriate. Mr. Sepulveda will be limiting us to those 5. Certainly limiting us to those 5.
When we voted to go with a superintendent committee to search for, to help us search for a superintendent, we did not say we were limiting to 5. We agreed, we voted to go out with the help of either one of these 5 or somebody else. We did not say we're going to go with these 5.
And so we haven't put it out there for anybody else to make a proposal or any kind of letter of interest for them to say that they'll do it for us. You have an inside track now with these 5, and you're not going to solicit anything else going on beyond that, because you've got 2 other votes that are going to make you a majority, and you're going to break our rules of putting this out for requests for proposals, and because you have 3 votes, that's going to make it right. It doesn't make it right. We have a policy to put out a solicitation for requests for proposals for any professional contract services.
There's also a thing that says that if it's under a certain amount, we can go through CES and we don't have to.
That's not in our policies. In our policies is that we will do a request for proposal for any professional services. No, it's not.
Any other questions for Mr. Guillen?
And again, again, George Esqueda. Again, I do believe that the presentation been made on May 17th without an action item immediately following that.
Yeah.
And we did not take no action.
No,
But it was set as an action item.
I understand that no action was taken. And then again, like I indicated earlier, I've been watching all the meetings since the beginning of the year, and again, I must apologize because I don't recall the board taking a vote to move forward with hiring of a search committee, or that being one of the options. And again, I apologize if I don't remember that, but again, I think that the issue is, what I can see is that the information was not disseminated to all the members of the board. You know, again, and I'll stand behind this, is that I believe that Mr. Prather or Mr. Guillen said that we're here as a New Mexico School Board Association, rather than presentation by Prather Consulting for the presentation portion of it, would have been a lot better. I think then, had the board been provided the opportunity then to take in the presentation that was provided that day, and then maybe at the next board meeting voted on it, I think a lot of things would have gone a lot smoother. You know, and again, we're all human and we can disagree or agree. To kind of go along with Mr. Guadiana's comment about disagreeing with me, you know, again, that's his option, his opinion. You know, everybody has their opinion, but I do believe that going through the School Board Association is similar to going through the CES process, in which people have already gone through the procurement process, and that's why they're on the list. I do believe if the information of the other 4 consultants or the other 4 entities could be provided to the board, and at least the board be given the opportunity to review all 5 qualifications, would seem to at least get you guys in a better position. Because, you know, may I ask each one of you as a board member, have you seen all 5 qualifications? And I'm not going to call it a proposal, because a proposal is something different, and a proposal is something that, I agree with Mr. Guadiana, you need to go through and follow board policy. It clearly states there for board consultants. So I'm not going to call it a proposal, I'm going to call it a qualification of statements. So I have qualification of statements for the 5 entities or 5 consultants been provided to you as a whole, as a board, for your review, to at least say, okay, this is what we have before us. Of the 5, we as a board believe that this is the number 1 selection. Because I do believe that going that route is going to save you guys a substantial amount of time from running through the RFP process. That's my comment. But again, so my question is, has the board seen all 5 qualifications of statements? No?
No.
No.
And
Okay.
Mr. Ian, it's my understanding again that the districts don't get the qualifications on the 5 people that work under the New Mexico School Board Association, because what happens is you all amongst the 5 and yourself determine who's available to support that district. Am I correct?
That is correct. They would not compete against each other. Again, there's a short bio on each of them posted on the program site on our website. I had it available, but we can't show it. But again, we'll take a look at who's available and give you a choice of those. If that was the case and 2 were available, we would, if you wanted, we would send you the resumes, but they would not be competing against each other. This is a team of professionals that we put together that have made this service available, and if they can schedule it, then they'll do it if you want them.
And then again, I may have used the word incorrectly. And again, and I wasn't alluding to or saying anything in regards to cost. My statement was more in terms of qualifications. So I understand that there's a difference between qualification-based selection and competitive selection. So I wasn't saying that they were to be competing against each other. But again, I do think that a lot of the information and the discussion that's been had today, had it been done back on May 17th, would certainly have clarified a lot of the information, and I still do believe you guys would be in a position to where either the search is going on or something like that. But again, hindsight's 2020. You're here where you guys are at today. But again, I do believe that had information been disseminated, it would have been you guys would be in a lot better position.
Go ahead, sir.
In subsequent meetings after the May, when Mr. Sepulveda asked me to look into the procurement, I did go on there and look and found out, and I did report at the next meeting that the 5 were not in competition, that the 5 worked together to develop, to figure out which one would help our district. And I did report on that. That should have clarified this part. That's why we went to Mr. Guillen one more time to find out, am I correct? Am I misleading in any way that area? Okay, so there wasn't a scope of work sent out to the 5 because the 5 work with the School Boards Association to see which ones are available. Now, we are talking, like you say, of either qualifications or competition or whatever. Now, one thing that I want to state as the former certified procurement officer, now I have another one, the new one, is that we have to be prudent in what we're using our money for. Because if we're spinning our wheels when we have put out there, been directed in the direction of, if you hire a headhunter, you're gonna pay upwards of $20,000. So are we gonna go to the RFP process and spend an awful lot of money to review proposals that are gonna be upwards of $20,000? Or are we gonna try to use a service that is available to us that is below $10,000? You have to look at the dollar amounts as well. I understand that it's in policy. The policy should state that you follow the procurement process. The procurement process is very clear in that area, is that under the $60,000, there is no need to do an RFP. And if you're going out for RFP just for the sake of winning an argument, I'm sorry, but that's not a reason to do that.
No, I understand.
And that's what I have to say.
No, and I understand everything you're saying, because I deal with it too.
Right.
So no,
Right.
I understand.
And I think we're in agreement as far as like the truth. And yes, if we had gotten better clarification in the front end, maybe it would have helped a little bit. But I did state that in meetings after the main meeting. I did state that.
I think the issue is that there was some implied bias by having Prather Consulting be the one to give the presentation on how we should proceed. Instead of having Mr. Guillen come and present, look at these are your options. Like just George stated it very well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's implied bias towards Prather Consulting.
Yeah.
That's the issue here.
Yeah, with the fact that immediately thereafter there was an action item, and again, that's why I said the perceived bias, and again, that's why
Yeah.
I appreciate me as a member of the public, although I live outside the district, as everybody knows. But again, I do believe today's discussion and has, in my opinion, clarified a lot, and I think had this been done initially, you guys would be a lot further along.
And there's a simple remedy, and that is put the scope of work out there. Ask for interest. Follow our procedures that state that for consulting services we will solicit for proposals. So if we do that, it's done. And if that does that exclude these people? I don't intend it to. I certainly want them to be viable. I'm certainly prudent on cost. And I'm not going to say, hey, let's get this $30,000 one when there's this $5,000 one or $8,000 one that looks pretty good. That's our choice. To limit our choice is taking our authority away from us, moving us away from the position that we're supposed to have as a collective board. Not one person making a decision as to what our limit of scope is in terms of consideration. That's the whole point. If you put it out there publicly, that's all we need to do. and I'll be happy.
Any other questions? For Mr. Guillen?
Mr. Guillen, any final comments from you?
No, but I would just suggest that whatever you choose to do, that you keep in mind that you should do it as soon as you can, and as soon as you're ready to make these tough decisions of selecting a new superintendent.
Well, thank you, Joe, for being on, and we'll let you know what we decide if we want to go there or go a different route.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
That brings us to item D.
Okay, on item D, again, this is a repeat of putting this on the agenda. The DWI program did use our Performing Arts Center. We just needed a formal approval by the board. So I recommend approval.
Here's the recommendation. Do I hear motion? Motion by Mr. Holguin. Second? Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any questions, comments? Thank you, Frank. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item E.
Item E is the American Rescue Plan application, the CARES 3 application. So we have met 3 times with our stakeholders. We also brought it to the board. The last board meeting did the presentation, solicited input from the board. So the proposed application here that we have is based on feedback from our stakeholders and from the board. I don't know if there's any questions on any of the items on the application.
I have a question. There are 13.6 FTEs that are associated to this grant, to this money. And according to our policies, again, the Finance Committee should take a look at the allocations for those positions to determine the longevity of the funding, the appropriateness of the funding, and the impact to our standard operational budget. And a good example would be like when 2 positions, the one that you held as well as the one that Ms. Davis held, was brought in under a grant previous to your current positions. We were told that you were funded entirely by the grant. And it turned out that you each received $22,000 of operational funds in addition to the grant money, for which it was misrepresented to us. And this not going through the Finance Committee continues that opportunity, and it continues the lack of responsibility that the board is exercising in terms of fulfilling its obligations. And this can be approved by the 24th of this month. I would recommend that this go to the Finance Committee and look at this with the detail that we're supposed to exercise.
This is just the application. We still don't have the money, and they can come back and tell us that they're not going to give us that full amount. And by doing that, then it'll, once they tell us how much money we're getting, then it comes to the Finance Committee so we can see what we're going to do with it.
You said that on the last grant. It never came to the Finance Committee. You said exactly those terms. This is an application.
And it did come back.
It did not. The Finance Committee has not met for I don't know how long, since before the budget was approved. There's been no Finance Committee meeting.
Well,
I'm sure that's no surprise
but
to you
that's
as
where
chair.
that's where this comes in. It's only the application of this. We still don't know if we're going to get this money or not.
So if we were involved with the application up front, we would at least know whether we could actually fulfill the things that we're looking at in terms of, okay, these positions are going to be adequately funded, they're not going to be adequately funded, or they're going to be provisional, saying that this position will be available only with available funding. Those are the things the Finance Committee can do in the application process, which would make it a much more concise and applicable application in terms of yes, we can actually do this. And after we go through the application process, the justification was, oh, we already put it in our application process, we can't change it. Well,
Applications can always be amended.
well, according to some people here, they can't be amended, and we will not look at it as a finance committee meeting.
That I don't know, but.
You're the chair of the finance committee, what do
I
you
am.
don't know?
But I'm telling you where it's gonna come, but you don't believe a single word I tell you.
If you ever tell me the truth, I will.
You don't listen to me anyway. Anyway, any other comments on this, application? Recommendation?
So I recommend approval of the application so that we can go ahead and submit it and see whether the state is going to approve our application as submitted.
You heard the recommendation, do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second? Second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions?
Yes, you mentioned board has reviewed this. To what?
We brought the presentation. Board hasn't reviewed this. What we did is we presented on the ARP and the grant requirements, and we allowed the board an opportunity to give feedback on how to use the money. We did that last board meeting. Melissa, Diane, and I presented on that.
I remember the presentation, but it wasn't really a discussion on any latitude.
I think the only thing that you brought up was money for infrastructure, which I told you had already been budgeted in there.
Yeah.
And then the number of FTEs.
Yes.
in there today.
And so that was informational, that wasn't substantive. So,
Well, and actually, the infrastructure, we had it at 200,000, and since the last presentation, we upped it to 250, so we did take feedback in consideration.
but in terms of our responsibility for reviewing the detail as it relates to personnel especially.
We don't have nothing to do with
No,
personnel.
that's what this is. This
No,
is
that's what
the
this is.
application.
Yeah, it has to
That's
do
what
with
we
13.6 FTEs being added.
I'm not sure where you're getting that many FTEs, because we have.
There's a
counselor,
column that says added additional
We have-
FTEs.
Counselor, we have, social worker. Oh, okay.
In the bar, it has it listed.
So if you'll notice on this other part, it's not added positions, 5 full-time FTEs and 4 partial FTEs are to maintain operation of employing existing staff.
So why do we have additional FTE as a column all by itself? And it not list those 5 positions?
On the
The
bar,
personal FTE on the bar, that's the standard state, it indicates which line items have FTEs with it. I don't know why they put additional FTEs, I didn't put that on there, the state does.
This totals up to the amount of funding that's going to be used. So that means that position is going to be funded by this grant, correct?
correct, like I said, on this side of it, it tells you the positions, it has a counseling position, it has social worker position, it has,
The reason it has additional FTEs is because when you take a bar, it's called a budget adjustment request. So you have our entire budget at the state, and so they take that as anything that's in addition to what's already at the state is considered an addition. So this is a budget adjustment request, which is an additional funding. So they're looking at it like you have additional FTEs, and it's to fund existing, the ones that Ms. Varela has on there, as far as the existing positions. You have to understand that, CARES 1 we had a certain amount on CARES 1. Then CARES 2 got approved, which is the ESSER 2, and that has a certain number of FTEs and so forth. The CARES 3 Act kind of overlaps and replaces the CARES 2 as the CARES 2 goes away. So they're not additional, they're to cover what goes away when CARES 2 goes away, then we pick up on CARES 3.
But just to kind of put that in context of what we're supposed to review, there's operational funds being used, and these are outside of that. These are our grant. And this is the part that we need to review for that reason. It's outside of our operational budget. For instance, when we had these two positions that I had just mentioned, we didn't know that it had a fiscal impact of $44,000 on the operational budget. We still don't know what kind of operational impact this is going to have with these positions, because it's only going to show the money that is taken out of the grant. In that case, we wouldn't have been able to see that it was supplanted by operational money. And for that purpose, I especially want to see what we're doing with the FTEs, so that if we are going to put operational money into that, the board should know, as we should.
On these positions right here, they're fully funded.
That's what we were told before.
Well, and it depended on the scope of the work that the person has to do. And you said me directly, so I will answer for myself. I didn't only manage the grant. I managed other grants as well.
We were
So
told the
my whole
position was
funding-
entirely funded.
I'm not sure
And that's a
what
different.
you were told, because I was not here to hear what was told to you. I'm
But-
telling you what I know
but we
about
would
my
know-
salary is that it was mostly grant funded, but because I had other duties, then it couldn't be covered by that.
That's
grant.
different than the position being funded by the grant. That's what we were told. But the outside of that is, it's our responsibility to know. It's our responsibility to know whether or not somebody has done it wrong before or not. It's part of our responsibility. Just like the strategic plan, just like the capital outlay plan, just like a whole bunch of other things, policies that we're way behind on.
Yep. Okay, we need to move on. Any other question? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay, aye.
Motion passes. Let the minutes show that it was 3-2 vote. Item D. E.
That was E. So we,
That was E, I'm sorry.
we already did
I did put a
number
check
3,
mark on it.
so we're on number 4.
Okay. Public input.
Guess who?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Well, again, George Scala for the record, and I mean, and again, I stated it numerous times that I've been watching the board meeting since the beginning of the year. I've submitted numerous emails to Mr. Mendoza, to the board, to Mrs. Varela now, and I'm glad to see that at least there's action being taken or research being done as a result of my emails. Because again, I've seen a lot of things that don't appear to be right, at least looking from the outside in. But I wanted to go. I do want to go back to one of my emails that I sent earlier in the year, in which I stated that, and I emailed each one of you guys, that I wanted to remind you guys that you guys were elected to this position by the Cobre District as a general. You guys signed up for this for the best interest of the Cobre District, which are the students, the staff, personnel, basically the whole district. And again, I may slip from the middle of the list to the bottom of the list in terms of favorability with you guys, but I'm going to come out and say it. And I think this opinion is out there of many members within the Cobre District that, again, you guys were elected to do for the betterment of the whole district. And at least what I see, and again, with no disrespect, is you guys are working as a dysfunctional board rather than a cohesive board. And anytime that happens, you guys are not going to get anywhere, which is apparent by the fact that you guys keep coming back to the same stuff over and over, and a lot of it comes down to lack of communication, at least from what I see. And again, I just want to encourage you and to remind you that you guys yourselves made the decision to run for your positions, were elected. And again, I just encourage you all, because from what I see is, it's primarily two individuals on the board going back and forth, with the third coming in, stating stuff, and two other members really not stating anything or providing their input. But again, and I think it takes you all as a group, and I just wonder if when you guys go into executive session, if this is the same type of discussions that are had, or is there more open, or all five of you communicating? Because again, I just want to throw that out there from the outside in, that I'm pretty sure there's other members or others in the public, and probably within the staff that are employees of the district, would rather see you guys work as a cohesive group rather than a dysfunctional group for the betterment of the Cobre district. So with that, that's my public input, and I'll stand for any questions, because again, I'm throwing it out to you guys, so I should be able to take it and answer any questions that you guys may have of me.
Thank you, George.
So, Mr. Guadiana, do you have any questions for me?
I appreciate everything you say, and even if I do disagree, and I think that's the kind of discourse we ought to have within the board. But when it gets, it's public input has been a challenge for this board. In my opinion, there's been a few people that are very happy when there isn't any public input. The fact that we continue to meet in this small venue is kind of demonstrative of that. We need to meet in a place that really invites people to participate. We had great participation in the Zoom, what do you call it? Google Meet.
The YouTube.
And YouTube. But I think the most effective one is the Google Meet as far as interaction. And I wish to see that more. But I think the method of doing things without public input prevails. And as Frank stated, Cordova stated when they first got elected here, when he was asked by a reporter as to why it is we didn't accept Guadiana's recommendation that the superintendent and the chief financial officer attest to the validity of the bills that we pay. And Frank's response is, he doesn't know how to do things our way. It's a challenge, and I requested that we have a board retreat. I requested that we do a strategic plan. I requested that we do a board evaluation, and I think that would be the best place to start, is to do a board evaluation. The dysfunction would come out, and it would be the part of that would be, how do we fix it? It isn't so much bringing out the dysfunction that I'm trying to do, as it is, we need to follow policies like we have here now. We're not following the majority of our policies. Matter of fact, I doubt some people even know them. We need to get back to the basics of sitting down. Why are we here? And you brought it up in a very good way. We're here for the betterment of the students. And in the betterment of the students, they laid out policies and procedures that we should follow, so that some people don't get a pay that's disproportionate to the position that they're in. Some people are comfortable with that. I'm not. And that's, if we're gonna get to be cohesive, we need to focus on doing the best thing for our students, doing the best things for our employees, and treating them all equal, so that positions aren't filled just by, okay, you're this today, or you're this from now on, versus posting it and having people apply.
Yeah. Well, you know, and again, I want to encourage you guys, again, not only to be cohesive, but transparent as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because it appears that there is a lack of transparency. You know, I as one, again, probably not towards the top of your favorable list because of all my emails, but I do want to encourage you as well, if you receive it, and I know everybody's busy, but if you receive an email and if you receive a phone call, at least have the courtesy or decency to reply to that email and say, you know what, hey, I'm busy today, I can't get back to you. You know, there was emails that I sent, 23 days had gone by without even a single acknowledgement. And again, it just comes down to that. Again, you guys are here for the betterment of the Cobre district. So, you know, I heard from Mr. Widiana, and again, do any of the other 4 members have questions of me, or I can shut up and sit down if you need me to, which I'm pretty sure some of you do want me to.
I don't have any questions, just again, an appreciation for you bringing that up, because it's obvious to, you know, not just you, but other members in our community. You hear it everywhere you go that, you know, people get on the YouTube live stream to enjoy the comedy. I mean, it's just, we're not cohesive. We don't come up with great decisions, and, you know, it's clearly dysfunctional. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Administration.
Item A, under administration, we have phone system upgrade report by Mr. Arambula.
Yeah, so it was continued from the last board meeting when I just requested. We are in the process of seeking phone services, and we've met with 3 different vendors. Right now, we're in the process of trying to figure out what service is going to provide us everything that we're requesting, and it's also emergency notification system, and any questions you guys have?
It's just,
I just wanted to make a comment that I saw this as an agenda item from last time, and we just wanted to clarify that this is being done, the procurement for this is being done through the REC, which we are a member of. So they are a cooperative, just like CES is, and just like the state purchasing department would be. So they are doing the procurement, and then they've selected vendors from which we can piggyback on and do contracts with those. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think the initial item was for approval to use the REC procurement, which we are allowed to do as a member of the Southwest REC. So that procurement, just to make sure that we're all clear on that procurement is being done not in-house, but by the REC, by combining the resources of the districts that are part of that, so that we get a better rate through the REC than we would trying to go through our own procurement.
And that's the same for the consortium part as well. For the next item.
Okay, Victor, item B, Southwest Consortium.
go ahead. No, if it's,
Southwest
they're the same item,
Consortium
right?
MOU?
Yeah, so again, that is just it's for the Southwest REC. It's the MOU is for the consortium to continue with moving forward with the consortium deal that we're working with other entities to try to get better broadband services and rates. Any questions?
Any questions for Victor?
Yeah, the MOU has lead applicant fiscal agent. Do we know who that is?
The vendor?
It has the listing of the people, including Cobre, Georgeburg, and the lead applicant / fiscal agent.
Well, so that'd be a PSFA, all in the Southwest REC. This is all through the public schools facility administration?
Yeah, the Public Schools Facilities
Authority. This is at the state level, so to try to get our ISP vendors, they figured if we join a consortium and brand together, we would be able to get better pricing.
Wasn't there state funding associated to this?
It's separate.
That's separate?
They're also, the state funding for this,
Uh-huh.
No, the state is they started their own. It went off the top of my head, but there's a broadband committee that the governor put in place for state services. That's in the process of being worked. Depending on how long that takes, if they provide better services at the state level, then our consortium would just go right in with them.
Okay. And we'd be paying for that service then to the state?
That's the part that we're still trying to get more information on. Right now, going through the Southwest REC, we'd be spending a lot less than we currently are with our monthly direct pays to the ISP provider.
So basically, this is just to leverage the purchasing ability and probably get a better rate?
Yes, sir.
For that. Cool. I was really impressed with the presentation that you made prior to this. I'm sorry that this is just the document signing of it. Next time, save it for this part, because it was awesome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Just to clarify, the fiscal agent right there says Southwest REC.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but there's the colon there, that cooperative number.
Yeah, it's the lead applicant / fiscal agent is the Southwest Regional Education Office.
Okay, that wasn't I didn't get that as clear as you're reading it, and yeah, I can see that now. And then down here, it again says the lead agent. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay. We'll just do
Thank you, Victor.
superintendent report. Thank you, Victor.
Don't we have to
Superintendent
set
report.
action item, isn't it?
No.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Under superintendent report, I do have several fundraising forms. The first three are for Cobre football. One of them is sale of fan gear. The next one is sale of green chili. And the other one is sale of kettle corn through the concession stand at home Cobre football games. And the purpose of all the funding is to purchase spirit packs for the athletes, coaches, managers, pre-game meals, end-of-year award banquet, senior parent night recognition, and then they also give $500 to a cancer fighter recipient. It's a donation from the football team. And then I have another one from special ed ancillary staff to raise funds for the life skills class. They sell cappuccino, popcorn, hot chocolate, and water out of their classroom, and the purpose is to raise money for the life skills class. The next one is from the volleyball team, to ask for donations from local businesses to advertise on a calendar. And the funds raised are for the volleyball program. And then the last one is the wrestling team selling apparel, and the purpose is for 2020-2021 state championship.
Do they have a goal of how much?
Which one?
The last one.
Yes, the goal is 2,500.
The life skill process, that's not part of is that different than what's in the curriculum? Is it? I don't know.
They do a lot of different, and maybe Melissa can expand on it, but I know they do a lot of like cooking activities and different activities like that with them that they use the funds for.
So, Idea B will not purchase food items, so they have to, it's just the provision of the IED grant application, they will not purchase food. So if they have some activities that they want to go to, and so they use that to pay for like ordering at a restaurant, or if they go to a field trip and have to purchase some food, that's what they use it.
So it's not classroom instruction?
No, it's outside the classroom instruction.
More
They're
enrichment.
running, yeah.
Okay.
But they are practicing their skills, counting change, and so they use that as a real life
No,
opportunity.
I just didn't want them to have to raise for something that's going to be done in the classroom. That should be our responsibility.
No.
And we
This is
do
an
cover
addition.
that.
Okay.
Also, I had a recommendation. You brought it up a while ago, but I had already written down that I recommend that we move the board meetings to the Performing Arts Center going forward. Just this doesn't allow us the social distancing, so I did have that on there. I also wanted to let the board know that Cobre is going to be hosting a vaccination clinic, one at Snell and Cobre. They're both going to be on August 27th. One will be in the morning, one will be in the afternoon. And then also wanted to inform the board that I know the Red Paint Powwow had come to us and requested use of our facilities. Ms. Montoya and I did meet with them after the board meeting, and it was at that time that we realized we had a football game already scheduled during the 3 days that they wanted to meet. We told them they were more than welcome to use Saturday and Sunday, but they said they would really need Friday to set up, so they did seek other venues, and so they will be moving their powwow to Sunday. And that's all I have on my superintendent report.
Okay. Student report, we don't have one yet. Public, in the back again to public input.
Everybody looks at me.
I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, he's back again. Well, I used up my 3 minutes on the first public input, so I'm here under the second one. So I guess just to go along, I've heard discussions about finance committee, the superintendent search committee. I've emailed the superintendent, the interim superintendent, the board, about how can people go about being placed on these boards or these committees. I've also heard in regards to the CARES Act that there was stakeholder meetings, but I don't know how the selection of those stakeholders happened. So I guess for moving forward, again, that's already in the past, but moving forward, can there be some kind of clarification or some kind of idea or put it out there to those hopefully that are on the Google Meet or as well as the YouTube live streaming as to if they do so wish to get involved, what is the process? Because again, I submitted numerous emails, got some very minimal responses that yes, we'll keep you posted, but no real solid response in terms of this is how it's going to be done. There'll be a form, there's going to be will the board president make the selection? Will the interim superintendent make the selection? How does that happen for those that do wish to volunteer? Is that something that could be addressed or answered here today so that not only for myself, but those on the Google Meet, so the YouTube, and even those that watch it tomorrow or next week will have an idea of what the process is, and is that something that you guys can address here today?
So on the stakeholder committee, in fact, for a lot of our committees, what we do is we work through the principals, and then the principals nominate people from their schools, both staff, and sometimes the staff volunteer, the principal will put it out there and say, we have this committee, anybody want to volunteer to be on it? If nobody volunteers, then the principal volunteers somebody to be on the committee. And a lot of times, the parents also are recommended by the principals to be put on the committee. That's how it works for our stakeholder committee.
Yeah, but I guess my question was, I understand that's already been done. But moving forward in regards to the superintendent search committee as well as the finance committee or any other committees that somebody that's not employed by the Cobre School District, because in reading the policies, it does allow for non-Cobre District employees to serve on some of those committees. So how can somebody that's interested in volunteering for such a committee go about that process or throw their name in the hat? I guess that's my question to you, Mrs. Varela, and you, Mr. Sepulveda, or anybody on the board, if they can clarify that or provide that information to the general public.
I think that's a great question, because the way I understand it is that you have to be recommended by the principal, basically. So if you're a member of the public that doesn't regularly communicate with the principal, then you'll never get you'll never have the opportunity.
Yeah, and in my case, both my kids are out of, they've graduated. So again, I won't have much communication with any more principals. But again, for those that, and I know there's other people out there that don't have school-age children that would like to volunteer. But again, those are the people that, again, bring a different perspective to the group. And again, would like to try to improve and make things better for the district.
Regarding that part, is really more a practice than it is a policy. That's not in policy. What is in policy is that the superintendent is the sole person that decides who serves on a committee. And policies mandate certain committees. One is the audit committee, the other one's finance committee. There's also a school performance committee that's supposed to look at and provide recommendations in areas that they could feel that we could do better at. So those are three that I can recall right off the top of my head that are in our policies, and the venue is going directly to the superintendent. I've seen your applications. I would love you to be on the finance committee, which you've expressed interest into. But more importantly, I would like it to get started all together. But that is true there's supposed to be 2 people from the public on the finance committee, 2 people on the audit committee from the public. And that's without recommendation, just solicitation and direct contact with the superintendent. I mean, not the superintendent, the president of the board. And he unilaterally he can include us in the selection, but he doesn't have to. It is given to him specifically.
Okay. So basically then, I guess you kind of lost me there at the end. So is it the superintendent that makes the decision?
No. That wasn't there. It's the president of the board
that makes the determination as to
on those policies that are listed in the Cobre policies.
Okay, so it solely falls on Mr. Sepulveda,
unless he wants to
in terms of who he would like to or select who can serve on such committees. Okay,
yes.
So that helps clarify it for me.
And,
so I appreciate that.
And I was going to say, just what you did by submitting an email that you were interested would be the way to either a phone call or call an email or a phone call to let Mr. Sepulveda know that you are interested in serving. That'd be the way to go about it.
She's done it a few times.
And again, I would recommend that you don't have that type of discussion verbally, that it be done in writing so that there is that paper trail. Because again, I've submitted numerous times and again, still awaiting a decision, as well as other emails waiting on information that I've requested. And so again, just done my 3 minutes, so again, I apologize.
Mr. Sepulveda, currently we have 2 community members on the finance. Is Mr. Padilla no longer active because he hasn't attended any meetings? So we need to take that into consideration. And we have Mrs. Lehman, that she's from the Freeport community.
And there is the issue with Mr. Padilla, and part of that is because we changed the times, but I can get a hold of him and ask him where he's inputted. But also the other member, the one you just mentioned, hasn't really had any input. I don't think she's ever said a thing. So that's...
Well, I mean, do we actually give her the opportunity to speak?
Everybody has the opportunity to speak.
So, because when we were having it as a Google, it's really hard to, unless if it's in person, maybe there's an opportunity to, maybe I don't know why she wouldn't.
Something to think about.
But I don't think we should kick her out because she didn't say anything.
No, then we shouldn't kick out Mr. Pedraza for...
Mr. Padilla?
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
I'm not saying kick him off. I'm saying he hasn't attended.
Yes, I'd like to also like to see if I can make a recommendation on when conducting district business, especially for you board members, would it be a possibility of using your district issued email addresses and steer away from using your personal? Only reason is throughout the state where there's pressure on multiple departments or whatnot with lawsuits or whatnot. Your doing district business on your personal account is subject to a Freedom of Information Act request. So if the district gets subpoenaed your guys' personal information, you have to surrender that and give access to your full account. So from here on out, I made that recommendation months ago, but I would like to see if there's possible. And then emails not getting answered. Well, if the superintendent or the school board president was to call me and say, Victor, are these individuals sending emails? Are the members receiving them? I would be able to tell and let you know. Going the personal way, there's no way of telling. So the same thing, it's just to protect yourselves. And I really emphasize that inside the district and tell everyone not to use their personal accounts. I've actually made setting changes in my network to not allow this personal things coming on, because I don't know what you guys have on your systems. I don't know, there's a lot of vulnerabilities out there with malware and ransomware, so I don't want to become a victim of some of these bigger entities that have gotten hit hard in the recent 18 months or 2 years. We don't have the resources to pull ourselves out of the hole if that was to happen to us. So I make that recommendation if you guys would possibly consider conducting board business with your district issued emails.
Okay, the only thing with that, Victor, in meetings, a lot of times I don't get them till days later. A lot of times out there, it says no internet service, and sometimes it takes half a day before it comes back on. So, that's the problem that I have with some of that. Even my own, it's not just the school.
Yeah. With permission, like I said, any one of you guys need assistance, crash course on how to access it, or just to see what your connectivity is like, we can open ourselves to go and assist you on making sure that you have that access, or how to make it easier, a little more convenient for you to access it, if possible.
I think your valid concern is opening up the possibility to any malware or something else along those lines. And for that, it should be a universal application, not just a matter of saying, okay, this person can't do that or this person can't do that.
It's something that's in place for the entire.
That needs to be there, and it would be best to incorporate that into our policies and make that legitimate then, because outside of that, you're acting outside of what the board has given you authority to do. So board business or school business is a very broad term. To universally apply that to communications that you would have from a parent to a teacher, and they might want it to be on personal email because they don't want it to be in the school email.
Yeah, and that's understandable. It's just a matter of accessing it all while they're here at work, on our devices.
Even like that, if a teacher and a parent communicated on a personal cell and it was about a student, and later on that came to a mediation or a department hearing complaint, that phone would be subject to, that's a piece of evidence. And so it just gets a little mushy too. So in our meetings, that's what the guidance has been, is to keep your personal phones and emails separate from board business, school business, anything associated with school. But even a conversation like that it is, it's a discoverable. It's discoverable, that conversation.
Fine. And what I'm saying is our practice should be expressed in our policies, and not be something that can otherwise be pointed out as, hey, you guys were doing something that limited that person's discovery or limited that person's ability to communicate. If it's in our policy, we approve it, I'm all for it. But that's all I ask. That's something that we can
try to see if we can make it, try to get that in place. But yeah, that's just something. Just wanted to throw it out there because I've been reading articles and seeing that, and you know, it just, if it got to that point, you have to surrender whatever device you access your account on, you know, and that's the part that we just want to protect you guys, and protect everyone really, you know, because there's that vulnerability.
Yeah, because if anybody ever hijacked your personal emails, I don't know if you've ever seen before, like somebody will get your password and pretend to be you and send all your contacts that you've notified in your personal email, and they might think it's you, and it's not. And we can't control the personal side of it, but if we can do the district email, we have more control to protect you and protect anybody else you come in contact with, on there, so somebody doesn't pretend to be you.
Yeah, and conversely, if a person wants to discuss something else with another coworker or worker, something, they should be allowed to use their personal email, so long as it isn't the operation in the course of what's going on in school.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of leeway that needs to be available.
So real quick, going back to the number of, to the committees and how many community members can be a part of those, are we limited to a max of 2 people that can be on those committees?
That's a minimum.
That's a minimum?
Yeah, that's.
So regardless of whether these 2 that are on there, want to continue to be on there, we can add additional? That's correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right.
There's no
Thank you.
prohibition to that.
Okay.
Anybody on there?
No, sir.
No. Okay. We'll just items for next agenda. Just have the minutes that will be combined with the July meeting and our meeting tonight.
I'd like to suggest an item, and that is, I've been contacted by somebody from Head Start, and about a collaboration with Cobre schools for providing services to 3-year-olds. It's a program that's been in effect for quite some time, and they have an agreement with Silver City. It seems like we might be available to pick up around $100,000, including the salaries for the people that do the program for 3-year-olds, as well as supplies. So I'd like to see if we could put that on the agenda for next meeting. In addition,
The presentation then.
Pugmire. This is Pugmire. And in addition, perhaps a closed session related to something that was just alluded to, special education.
In general, or?
I think you can probably fill her in on that. I think so. I can talk with you later. Okay. Were we going to do anything with this? Okay.
I think that sample form for what input is just
No.
No?
Well, that's just the form that they used to get to be put on the.
No, it wasn't meant to be put in your packet. I had been asked for a form to be placed on the board agenda. We had not been able to find one, so I did a search, I found one, and I had asked Sandy to type one up so that we could be able to provide it to the public. So that's still in rough draft form, it still needs to be fixed.
Okay.
So hopefully we can have that available soon.
So would that be a next
Although-
item? Do you have
although
an item for the
public-
next meeting?
Although the public can comment on your public input.
So this would be a public input?
No, I'm saying people can always comment under public input.
Without,
But I've been asked about a form to be able to be placed on the board agenda, so that's what I was working on. This is my work in progress.
And that request comes from me because.
No.
Yeah. Because in previous emails from Mr. Mendoza, he always alluded to a form that needed to be filled out. So I asked on numerous occasions for that form, and I guess now they're looking to provide that form to me. But to go along with that, I also emailed Mrs. Varela this morning because I've been told in the past that the agenda could be amended to include discussion items, not action items, but discussion items. And I requested, and I copied all you guys via your personal emails, basically a discussion item to be included in today's agenda, which apparently, I don't know if you guys read it or not, but again, it was sent to Mrs. Varela, and the 5 of you guys were copied, but it appears that that agenda request, since the form has not been made public, I figured that that was the second best way of requesting to be placed on the agenda. And that agenda request item was an update in regards to the warranty work from, as Mr. Bedu mentioned at the July 26th meeting, warranty work that Hellas needs to come back and complete as part of the $7 million bond money, and what the status is of that work, since I do believe that the taxpayers paid for that a complete and usable end product or project should be there. And again, that was just my request to see if there was an update on that item as discussed 2 weeks ago.
So, Mr. Estela, one thing I want you to know is I don't have time to read my emails during the day. I usually check them at night when I get home, so I have not yet seen your email, so I do apologize for that. So I will look at it.
Okay, so I appreciate it.
That one's about a week old, isn't it?
No, I sent that one this morning.
Oh,
There's
oh,
others
the
that
other
are.
one. Okay, the other one.
Okay, well, thank you.
The other thing is, and I don't know yet, we might need to have a special meeting sometime this week. I don't know yet if I get more information, I'll let you know. Okay, anything else for items for next agenda? Motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.